Welcome to Nice and Blunt. I'm Adam Riancho, and it's Thursday, week 7, October 16th. We have a game tonight between the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Cincinnati Bengals. Who you going to start and who you going to sit? All right, we got a good game tonight. I'm excited. I feel like there's actually going to be very little defense tonight. I worry about the veteran Steelers roster on Thursday. Historically, Mike Tomlin does not show up for Thursday games. So we're going to get through every player tonight, tell you who I think I should start and sit, and let us begin with the injury report. That is our first order of business. The Bengals injuries. Interesting situation is brewing at tight end because Mike Gesicki has been placed on IR, and Tanner Hudson, who scored a touchdown last week, is out with a concussion. So 2 of their 4 tight ends are missing, and I'm not too worried about Drew Sample. So Noah Fant actually has a pretty big runway. This matchup against Pittsburgh is the best against all tight end defenses for fantasy purposes. The Steelers are giving up the most points per game to the tight end position. So I do like Noah Fant to have some upside tonight because Gesicki and Hudson are both missing to compete with him. But their guard, Lucas Patrick, is also on IR. Here, let me get the red rectangle. Let's showcase what I'm talking about a little bit more. The right guard, Lucas Patrick, is questionable. Not sure if he's going to play tonight or will he. Tanner Hudson, like I mentioned, is out. And then Mike Gesicki, not pictured, was placed on IR. On the defense, though, Trey Hendrickson is questionable. I don't think he's going to play. It sounds like he's a long shot, but he is trying to get on the field. He's pulling to be available, but I really don't think he will. The Thursday setup, I think, is a problem. His hip injury is probably going to keep him out. So those are the injuries for Cincinnati. And now let me pivot to the Steelers side of the ball. Here we go. This is the Steelers injury report. For the Steelers, they are without wide receiver Calvin Austin. Calvin Austin has been ruled out. He missed last week as well. And so Roman Wilson will have to step up, but he barely did anything last week. I do not trust Roman Wilson. The Steelers are also without free safety Miles Killebrew. He has been placed on IR. And then safety Deshaun Elliott is also questionable. Apparently Elliott has been deemed active. Scratch that. Elliott will play. But I am a little worried about their secondary because even though Darius Slay is active, he did suffer a shoulder injury last week that did force him out of the game. And although he's ready to go, he's pretty old. It's a Thursday game. I'm not too excited about him covering T. Higgins or JaMarr Chase. Joey Porter Jr. has also been dealing with injuries. He had a head injury that they were evaluating him for a concussion. He appears to be good to go, but then he also had a hamstring injury earlier in the season. He is not 100% either, so the short window to recover I don't think helps him at all. The Steelers secondary, I think, has a problem on their hands against JaMarr Chase and T. Higgins. If there is one element of their defense I don't think is going to be elite tonight, it would be at stopping the receivers in the secondary. So those are the injuries for this game. Now let's talk about some other matchups and which running backs you're going to be starting. Let's talk about the Pittsburgh running backs first. These are the players in question. And I think Jaylen Warren is actually a very good start tonight. I would be starting Jaylen Warren. He is my running back 16 in my rankings. I love the matchup for him this week. The Bengals are giving up the most fantasy points overall to the running back position. They've allowed 10 touchdowns on the year to opposing running back rooms. So I do expect a touchdown for Jaylen Warren tonight. It's possible he gets sniped by Kenny Gainwell. There's a potential vulture touchdown incoming. But honestly, the Bengals give up so many touchdowns. Both of them could score. That's not out of the realm of possibility. So I do have Warren in my top 20. Love the matchup. I will be starting Warren if I can. However, I do think Kenny Gainwell offers some low-end flex value. If you're in a very deep format, if you're kind of desperate, I do think the matchup does benefit multiple players in this backfield. It's kind of like that Broncos game a few weeks ago on Monday night. The Broncos really exploited the bad Bengals defense, and not just J.K. Dobbins had a good game, but also RJ Harvey. So you got to be willing to take some chances. I doubt you can afford to manage this risk, but if you are super desperate, there are two teams on bye. Maybe you can't replace James Cook because you're just really depleted. And maybe you have both Cook and Henry. Who knows? Maybe Kenny Gainwell is an option for you, but odds are you're keeping him on the bench. I just want to mention a good matchup for Kenny Gainwell. Does have some value, but I'm only starting Jaylen Warren. So the Steelers running backs, those are the guys I think are in your lineup tonight. Only Jaylen Warren, but you have some consideration for Kenny Gainwell. And then for Cincinnati, I don't feel confident in starting Chase Brown, but if you are desperate, if you are scraping the bottom of the barrel, I do have him outside the flex territory at number 29, but I do have him above Kenny Gainwell. So in a tier above, in the top 30, you could do worse. But to be honest with you, I really don't like any running back outside the top 20. I think it gets really gross on the second column here. 21 and below, starting with Ashton Genty, scare the fuck out of me this week. I really don't like the running back position quite at all. So running back 29 is pretty discouraging. I don't love the matchup against Pittsburgh. It's league average, but just not that exciting. If we look back to last year, Chase Brown did score 17.5 points on Pittsburgh, but that was with Joe Burrow. Without Joe Burrow, he's been pretty shit this season. So not expecting too much from Chase Brown. Maybe it works out, but he's had very capped upside since week 1. I am not going to take my chances. At RB29, I'm going to bench him, similar to Kenny Gainwell. Maybe you're going to be forced to do it, but if you can avoid it, definitely bench Chase Brown. So that is the starting running back for Cincinnati. Now let's move on to the backup running backs, who I do have unranked tonight. But Samaje Perine is getting some level of work these days. That's one reason why Chase Brown is even less valuable. And then last week off the bye, Caleb Johnson did factor in a little bit, but I don't think they trust him enough where you should be trusting him in your lineup. The volume is still pretty low for Caleb Johnson. So neither of them are ranked. I'm not starting either of those two. But let's move on to the quarterback position, where I do think there is some flex appeal in a 2-quarterback league. I would not start either guy in a 1-quarterback setting. I'm definitely not trusting Flacco if it's a 12-team league. Start 1 quarterback. However, if you are in Superflex, I do think Flacco is in the streaming conversation. I have him at number 18 this week. The Pittsburgh matchup does not scare me. They rank top 12 in terms of fantasy points allowed to the quarterback position. I could see multiple touchdown passes for Joe Flacco. I think he will throw at least 2. I could envision a third. And if he does offer 2+ touchdowns, then the floor will be pretty decent. I do think Flacco will give you at least 14, 15 points tonight. And sometimes that's all you need in a Superflex format to be relevant. So not going to start him in a typical setting, but in Superflex, I will consider him. And I'd rather go Flacco than Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers I have at 21, and this matchup against Cincinnati is really good. It ranks top 10. The Bengals defense is trash, but Rodgers just doesn't push it down the field. He does not throw deep passes. And if you don't get a lot of yards after catch from DK or Jaylen Warren, then there's not that much to go around. So the Steelers settle for field goals a little too often for me to trust the touchdowns tonight. I will say Rodgers has some value, a decent floor, but just not enough for me to start. So I am going to be benching Rodgers, no doubt, but I do think Flacco has some super flex streaming value this week, but not much in the long term. So if you don't want to pick him up off the waiver wire, don't worry about it. I wouldn't force it on Flacco, but I do think he throws for at least 2 touchdowns tonight. I do think he goes over 14+ points. If he gets the third, he could crack 20 points. So just a player to keep in mind. I do like the prop bet projections on Flacco quite a bit, but we can move on to another position. Let's talk about the wide receiver position now, where in Pittsburgh, I do trust DK Metcalf quite a bit. Let me zoom in a little bit on this graphic. I have DK Metcalf as a start tonight. I believe he should be in the lineup. DK Metcalf is my wide receiver 17 going into this matchup. He has 4 straight games of the touchdown, and especially with Calvin Austin inactive, I really don't see any threat to him in that category. Maybe Jonnu scores a touchdown. Maybe the running backs really vulture him, but I expect at least one end zone target from Aaron Rodgers, and it will be accurate. It will be where you need it. I expect DK Metcalf to score a touchdown, whether it's in the red zone or yards after the catch. He's had some good value this season. I do think he's earned relative must-start status. There's some weird situations going on with injuries at wide receiver this week, and if I had DK Metcalf, I would be starting him. This is the first time I'm showing you my full wide receiver rankings, so I'll leave it up on the screen just a little bit longer to evaluate who you would be benching instead of DK Metcalf. But in the top 20, I do think Metcalf is a start for this matchup. On the Bengals side of the ball, I think you're starting both players. You're definitely starting JaMarr Chase. I have Chase ranked as number 3 in my ranks this week. I expect Chase to find the end zone. I think he's going to have a good game. If we look at his career versus Pittsburgh, he's played in 6 games, and he's averaging 6 catches for 83 yards. He also has 5 touchdowns in those 6 games, an average of 16.4 fantasy points per game in half PPR. So that is a very good floor. I expect a touchdown. I think he'll go over 15 tonight. And if we narrow it down to just the last 4 games, he has at least 81 yards in every single matchup, 3 touchdowns in that span, an average of 18.1 points per game. He's gone over 100, or at least come close to it, a decent amount against Pittsburgh. So JaMarr Chase usually steps up, even with, the backup Jake Browning. Couple years ago, JaMarr Chase had 81 yards on 4 catches. He had a pretty solid game against Pittsburgh. So I think he'll find the end zone. I think he's a lock in the lineup, a top 3 wide receiver tonight. But I'm also going to start T. Higgins. T. Higgins is my wide receiver 28 in this matchup. T. Higgins has played phenomenally well against the Steelers. He has 3 games with over 100 yards in his last 6, and 2 of them he's cracked 140. He also has a 50-50 shot at a touchdown, 3 touchdowns for T. Higgins in his last 6 matchups. And on average, he averages 14.8 points per game. He really plays well against Pittsburgh. I mentioned some of their injuries in the secondary. Although their players are active, I don't feel like the veterans are going to have an easy game here with short rest. I do think T. Higgins plays well. I think he gives you at least 60 yards. He's done that in 4 of his last 6 games against Pittsburgh. And I also think he has a decent shot at a touchdown. So I like T. Higgins as a high-end flex play. And I'm also really down on a lot of running backs this week. So honestly, if you had a running back I rank outside my top 20, I would be benching them for T. Higgins. So I'll show you those ranks one more time. Let's go back to the running back rankings. Here, let me pull it up. These are the running back rankings. Anyone below Ashton Jeanty, I believe Jeanty and further down are not worth starting if you have T. Higgins. I would rather go T. Higgins than any running back I have in this column starting at 21. I would go Kimani Vidal over T. Higgins, but just barely. However, once we hit Jeanty, I hate the matchup. I would be benching running backs for T. Higgins. So a reminder on the rank on T. Higgins, I have T at number 28, and I am telling you to start him. He is a high-end flex, top 30 wide receiver. I would be starting T. Higgins tonight. So both Bengals receivers have value. And then when it comes to the backup wide receivers, I would be benching both Andre Yoshivas and Roman Wilson. Not going to pick them up off the waiver wire, both unranked. I don't see enough target volume or value to start either tonight. So bench them, not trusting either backup wide receiver. And then at tight end, I think it's actually really interesting for this game because both options tonight get really, really good matchups. The Pittsburgh Steelers give up the most fantasy points overall to the position, and then the Bengals give up the second most points overall. So I actually have Noah Fant and Jonnu Smith ranked back-to-back in my ranks this week, but outside the top 15, I'm probably going to bench him. I have them at 19 and 20, and odds are that's just not high enough to crack your lineup. But they do have some flex appeal. I legitimately see touchdown upside for both of them, and based on these matchups, it's kind of unfortunately wasted on these 2 players, but especially with the injury to Mike Gesicki and Tanner Hudson. I think Noah Fant has little target competition. I could see a touchdown for Noah Fant tonight. Pittsburgh has given up 4 touchdowns to the position in 5 games. I do like Noah Fant's upside. I also like Jonnu's upside as well to score a touchdown. The Bengals have given up 5 touchdowns in 6 games. So they both have legitimate streaming value, but the position is pretty deep. And we also are expecting George Kittle and Brock Bowers to get back on the field. So they are not as interesting, but they do have some projection higher, lower prop bet value tonight. I would hit the higher on both of them in many of their projections. So I do like them as sneaky options, but probably going to bench them. And then I also want to mention, just because the matchup is so good, Pat Freiermuth is my tight end 28. It's so low in the ranks, you're not going to consider him. He is the backup after all, but it is a very good matchup. If the value does not go to Jonnu tonight, it could easily go to Pat Freiermuth. So not going to start him, definitely not, but I wanted to mention him because the matchup is really good. And then there's not that many other players left, but the defenses are always relevant. Let's talk about the defenses. I would be reluctantly starting the Pittsburgh Steelers. I have Pittsburgh ranked at 11, and that's one of the last defenses I would really consider in my lineup this week. I am tempted to bench them for even the Dolphins. The Dolphins have a lot of wind and rain in this matchup at Cleveland, and I actually trust the Bengals offense more than the Browns offense. So Steelers defense has played well. There's been a lot of turnovers. I think you'll keep them in the lineup, but honestly, I don't really want to do it. I don't feel great about it, but I do think the Steelers crack my top 12, and odds are you will start them. But the Bengals, I think, get a good matchup. The Steelers offense is not scary, so I do have them in top 20, but I'm not going to start them. Not talented enough. But I don't think they give up 30-plus points tonight. I don't think the Aaron Rodgers Steelers offense scores a ton of touchdowns. So I'd be benching Cincinnati and reluctantly starting the Steelers, but at number 11, you could definitely find a better option. I do like the Patriots, the Browns, the Chiefs in the top 3. Panthers at the Jets, I think, are good. Broncos, always good. The Bears, the Saints, that's a good matchup. Packers at Arizona have been reluctantly worth trusting, but I think it's a better spot for them. And then the Rams-Jaguars game is going to be low scoring. Seahawks versus Houston have a good matchup. Steelers at 11, you don't have to trust them. I'm not dying to do it, but they are top 12. They are relevant tonight. But last position to bring up would be the kicker position. And if you have Chris Boswell, I'm definitely starting Chris Boswell. But I do not see a purpose in rostering Evan McPherson, especially without Joe Burrow. I would be dropping the Bengals kicker. So drop McPherson, start Boswell, and now let's get to the full start-sit decisions tonight. These are the 5 players in my lineup. I will be starting JaMarr Chase, no doubt. I'm also starting DK Metcalf with some confidence. He's been really good lately. I'm also going to start Jaylen Warren with confidence. The matchup is elite against the Bengals. And then I will also start Chris Boswell. I think he is a top 10 kicker. I would keep him in the lineup. But technically, T. Higgins is just a flex play, but a very high-end option. In the top 30 at my wide receiver rankings, I do think T. Higgins is better than the running backs I rank outside the top 20. If you had Ashton Genty, my RB21, versus T. Higgins, I'd rather go T. Higgins. I like the matchup for him. I think he will play well tonight. And any other running back beyond the top 20, I would bench for T. Higgins as well. So those 5 players should be in your lineup tonight. And then in the flex consideration, I think you're probably benching all of these options, but I do have these 4 players as potential. They have some potential to crack your lineup. That's what I'm trying to say. The Steelers, more likely than not, are in your lineup at number 11 in a 12-team league. I would start them, but they're not my favorite start this week. I don't think you have to do it, but at 11, probably going to keep them in there. And then Chase Brown at RB29, very low-end flex positioning. I would bench Chase Brown more likely than not, but I do think if you're desperate, you can do it. If you're super desperate, you can also pivot to Jonnu Smith and Joe Flacco. You could also pivot to Noah Fant, but odds are you're going to be benching all 4 of these players, maybe except the Pittsburgh Steelers. But outright benches is everybody I didn't mention. I would be sitting the rest of these options. Noah Fant, probably not going to pick him up off the waiver wire. Feels a little too unnecessary. Kenny Gainwell could score a touchdown, but without it, not enough volume, so I'll bench him. The Bengals defense, not going to trust them, not talented enough. And then Yoshivas and Samaje Perine, not getting enough volume. I'll bench the Bengals kicker, and then the rest of the Steelers, I'll also bench them. Calvin Austin isn't even going to play, but not going to trust Roman Wilson or Pat Freiermuth. So those are my start sits tonight. Last thing to bring up would be my final score prediction. And let me get rid of my face real quick. I expect the Bengals to pull the upset. I picked the Bengals to get the win straight up in my win-loss picks this week. I think I'm also going to take them. I'm definitely going to take them against the spread. They're getting 5.5 points, and I do expect the Bengals not just to cover, but to win outright. I expect a bit of a comeback. I think Flacco is going to score at least like 10 points in the first half, and even if they struggle quite a bit, the Steelers are going to settle for too many field goals, and they're going to let Cincinnati hang around. There's going to be one big play from JaMarr Chase that really opens up the game in the second half, and I do think Cincinnati will come back to get the win. So Joe Flacco throws 3 touchdowns. McPherson kicks another field goal. The Bengals score 24, and Pittsburgh settles for 3 field goals and only 2 touchdowns. Final score 24-23, a 1-point victory for Cincinnati. I'm willing to trust it because Mike Tomlin is terrible on Thursday night. He has an 0-7 record in division on the road, and that is something I'm willing to bet on. So I will take Cincinnati money line. I think they win straight up, but if that's a little too bold for you, I think it's a closer game than FanDuel predicts. I will take Cincinnati plus 5.5. And the over-under, I think, will hit the over. I am projecting 47 points tonight in this game. The line is 44.5. The audience is not agreeing with me, however. 74% of poll results are siding with Pittsburgh. I am one of the 26% that believes Cincinnati will win the game. That is going to be it for this game preview. And let me show you one last thing. Let me get my face back on here. And then let's get rid of this graphic. And bring in another one. I also give you a Underdog Pick'em. Let's remind you the deal we have on Underdog this season. If you play just $5, you will get $100 in bonus funds using promo code BLUNT. Promo code BLUNT. The link is in the sign up. Follow the link and use promo code BLUNT. Once you play your first $5, you will get $100 in bonus funds. And if you're interested in how to spend that first $5, this is my entry for tonight's game, my higher lower projection pick'ems for this matchup. I put down $5. I also used a 40% profit boost token, and my expected prize is going to be $328 if I am correct. So the 40% holy shit. The 40% profit boost token is eligible for everyone. You don't need code BLUNT to use it. So capitalize while you can, and that's a pretty good payout for just $5. So these are the picks tonight. I believe T. Higgins is going to have a good game. He has gone over 60 receiving yards in all but one of his last 3 performances versus Pittsburgh. So I like him to get some good volume tonight. He did that last week with Joe Flacco. I believe T. Higgins will hit the higher, not just on 50 yards, that's his baseline projection, but I think he goes over 60. I actually increased the line on this one. I did hit the higher on T. Higgins receiving yards. I also think DK Metcalf is going to score a touchdown. He has 4 touchdowns this season already, and I believe it'll be 5 against Cincinnati. They give up the 11th most fantasy points to wide receivers, and Calvin Austin is inactive. I expect Metcalf to find the end zone. I also think Kenny Gainwell is going to contribute tonight in the passing game. He has 6 receptions in each of his last 2 games. And although he's not super efficient with those catches, I think if he gets at least 3 receptions tonight, he will go over 17.5 receiving yards. I will hit the higher. I think volume will carry him. The Bengals are so bad against running backs, and they give up over 50 receiving yards on average to opposing running backs. So Gainwell does catch passes. I am a little bit worried about this one. I think this is the least likely to work out, but I do think Kenny Gainwell will exceed this projection in receiving yards. This one is also a very risky one, but I think it's worth it on the ROI. I think Noah Fant has a good shot at a touchdown. Tanner Hudson's inactive, so is Mike Gesicki, and the Steelers allow the most fantasy points to the tight end position. They've given up 4 touchdowns to tight ends in 5 games. So I'm willing to take a shot. Let's roll the dice on Noah Fant. This is a 99% profit boost selection. The multiplier on the Noah Fant touchdown is double your money. So I am willing to take that chance. I like the Noah Fant touchdown tonight. I also think JaMarr Chase is a lock for a touchdown. I expect Flacco to score at least 2, and one of them will go to JaMarr Chase. JaMarr Chase is going to have a very good game. He has 5 touchdowns in his last 6 versus Pittsburgh. So those are my 5 pick'ems tonight. I hit the higher on all 5. T. Higgins receiving yards, DK Metcalf touchdown, Kenny Gainwell receiving yards as well, and then the Noah Fant touchdown, the JaMarr Chase touchdown. I would probably expect the Fant touchdown to be the least likely, along with Kenny Gainwell in receiving yards. But I do think they have relatively decent odds. I don't hate these picks. Those are the ones I went with. So a reminder, if you are a new customer, you can capitalize on a pretty sweet deal. Play your first $5 and get $100 in bonus cash using promo code BLUNT. New customers, the link is in the description of this video. So that is it for the main broadcast. I will get to your questions now. And let me pull up the live chat. Let me get it going. And let's take a look at the poll. The poll is actually very close tonight. We have 54% of people responding on the side of Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh minus 5.5. Y'all are expecting him to win by relatively a touchdown. I don't feel it. I'm not picking that myself. So I am going to take a very quick break, like literally 10 seconds, and pack a bowl. And I'll get to your questions in just a sec. Let's drop the poll. Let's drop the intro. That's what I'm looking for. Let's go. All right. Let me pull up your questions. Let me get them on the screen. Just got to add the extension into OBS. There's like an overlay that I need to pull up. And then we will get to everyone's question, I promise. We're also going to do probably a daily draft on Underdog. Actually, let me go back to this real quick. These are some other Underdog projections that I like, but honestly, they've kind of like kneecapped you in terms of the return on investment. Like the Joe Flacco one, I think is worth it. Joe Flacco, I think, will throw 2 touchdowns. I think even 3 touchdowns is actually kind of interesting. I also think Jaylen Warren will score a touchdown, but they're expecting that as well. They minimized your payout. Times 0.86 is actually significantly diminishing your ROI. I think Higgins could score a touchdown, but I think it's more likely he gives you yardage rather than a touchdown. So I will avoid that one, but I do like it. And then Chris Boswell, I think will score at least 2 field goals. I do like Boswell for at least that number, but they're also diminishing the return. They're expecting that to happen as well. Same with McPherson on 2 touchdowns for him. And then I also think Freiermuth could make a little noise. But look at this like return. I have literally 6 picks selected, and I think all of them can hit. But because the projections are like so like capped in terms of return, you'd put down $5 and only get 62 in exchange. Like the multiplier for 6 picks is only 12.4. That kind of sucks. It should be way higher for 6 picks. So, you know what? I think I'm going to make this a little more difficult. Let's do one that's just like kind of crazy. Let's go for Joe Flacco 3 touchdowns. Let's give Jaylen Warren a touchdown. Let's ignore the I don't think we can pair T. Higgins touchdown with Flacco touchdown. So let's get rid of that. Let's give Chris Boswell 2 field goals. And then let's get rid of the Freiermuth projection and give Evan McPherson. Can you even do that? I doubt you can pair those 2 together. So yeah, let's take these 3, and then let's go back to a JaMarr Chase touchdown. And then the other one I really liked that we selected earlier would have been the DK Metcalf touchdown. Where's DK Metcalf? Here we go. Okay, so these 5 picks, you get 138. I feel decent about it, but you can't pair JaMarr Chase touchdown with Flacco touchdown. So, nah, it's not worth it. But I am interested in these ones as well. I'll be honest. I do like these picks. Did not include them in the main one, though. Anyways, I mentioned I would answer your questions. I am not a liar. I just got distracted. So let me pull them up. And I'm also going to end the poll. Let's get rid of the poll. Jeez. It's not... I'm having technical difficulties. Sorry. Crap. Bear with me. Poll is over. Message unpinned. Now I can access all of this shit. Jesus. Okay. Sorry for the delay. Okay. Scott is in here. Scott Young, good evening, my man. Welcome in. But Soul Pancake says Bengals might actually get the win because everyone is betting Steelers money line. I believe it's possible. I do not like Tomlin's record on Thursday night. Oro Zur says, bro, love your content. Congrats. I have a doubt. I have Gibbs, Genty, White, JSN, Adams, and Rice. Choose 2 running backs, 2 receivers, and 1 flex. Okay. Gibbs, Genty, White. I will be starting Gibbs and Rashad White. I'm very hesitant on Ashton Genty this week, so far I'm benching Genty. And then it was receiver. I'm definitely starting Devontae Adams and JSN. Rashee Rice coming back to the mix. I'm definitely starting Rashee Rice. Yeah, those are the 5 players. You're going to start Gibbs and Rashad White at running back. You're going to start Adams, JSN, and Rashee Rice. You're going to be benching Ashton Genty. Hate the matchup for Ashton Genty. Soul Pancakes had to sit Derrick Henry because of the bye week, but I'm starting Gainwell and Higgins. Love the start on Higgins. Good luck with Gainwell. Love his matchup, but a backup, never a safe proposition. I hope you have a RJ Harvey level game. I hope he really contributes in the passing game. That's what I'm hoping for. That was our higher lower pick on Gainwell. Good luck. I love the T. Higgins start. That is a good call. Jacob says, need a flex in PPR, currently starting McLaurin, but his injury worries me. I think he'll be back. I love the Cowboys matchup. I would be starting McLaurin this week. Would you start Higgins tonight or leave McLaurin in and have Etienne as a backup in case Terry is out? I mean, I guess you could be worried about it and reluctant to trust him, but I do not like Travis Etienne this week. I'd rather have T. Higgins than Travis Etienne. So if you are very concerned about McLaurin, I think he plays, but not knowing that for sure, I get it. Go ahead and start T. Higgins tonight. If you want to play it safe, go ahead with T. Higgins. I think he'll be fine. A touchdown is a decent bet, but I think yardage-wise, he will give you 10-plus points. I think he'll have like 65, 70 yards on like 5 catches, and that should be good for at least 9.5, 10 points. I think in full PPR, which that's what you're in, that's 12 points. I'm fine with that. Yeah, if you're worried about T. Higgins, I wouldn't be that worried. I think the upside is higher for McLaurin. But if you don't want to get stuck with a bagel, then go for it. But ETN will be okay. I'll be honest, I'd rather have Terry McLaurin than T. Higgins. But ETN I would not rather have than T. Higgins. So that's your call. I would probably play it safe and go with T. Higgins. But that's a good question. AS says Warren or ETN half PPR. I'm definitely going Jaylen Warren. I do not like the matchup for ETN against the Rams. They have not allowed more than 1 touchdown this year to opposing running backs, and that running back was Christian McCaffrey. I don't trust ETN to find the end zone. Give me Jaylen Warren in an excellent matchup. The best you can find is against Cincinnati. Julio Ramirez says, got to make decision before the game, gamble with Chase or gamble with Rice, full PPR. I mean, as long as this is JaMarr Chase, I will be starting JaMarr Chase. I also want to start Rashee Rice. I have both as top 10 receivers, but I do have JaMarr Chase at number 3. I would start JaMarr Chase tonight. If it's Chase Brown, then fuck no. Do not start Chase Brown over Rashee Rice, but do keep JaMarr Chase in the lineup. I think he has a very good game tonight against Pittsburgh. Julio Ramirez says wide receiver 2 is London. Yeah, you're definitely not benching London. I would go with JaMarr Chase. Cliff G says, afternoon, Adams. Something tells me Cincinnati takes this game. I fully agree. I am fully on board of Cincinnati. So much so that I'm actually repping something. I was reluctant to put it on, but fuck it. Let's go for it. All right. We're repping full Bengals attire. I had the pants on. It was below the frame. We are going full Bengals tonight. Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go. And then I'm also going to piss somebody off, but I'm going to bring her into the frame. Where is she? We going full Bengals. Let's fucking go. We got full Bengals. We are on the Bengals tonight. We are on Cincinnati. Okay, I'll put you back. I saw this in my closet. I was like, okay, we're picking the upset tonight. Let's wear it. Let's go for it. Who says, should I start Flacco or Rodgers? You're starting Flacco tonight, my friend. Go with Joe Flacco. I see 2 touchdowns, maybe 3 for Joe Flacco. But Best Ball on Call, here's your thumbs up before kickoff. Appreciate you, bro. Thank you very much, Best Ball on Call. Check out Best Ball on Call's channel if you are interested in some other fancy content. He's also got some videos over there. I believe it's not just live streams. I'm pretty sure you also have some videos, if I'm not mistaken. But Julio just wants to see the Bengals get a dub. I'm here for it. I think it'll happen, man. I really don't trust the Steelers defense tonight. I'm really reluctant to actually endorse them as a start. But Fancy Woat says, PPR, would you start Evans over GP or Nico? I think I'd start Mike Evans over George Pickens. I assume that's George Pickens. I can't think of another GP that you're bringing up. But I would go Evans against Detroit, especially with the Brian Branch suspension there. Without Terry Arnold and Avonte Maddox, the Lions secondary is trash right now. And even when they are healthy, they're not that much better. So I would go Evans over George Pickens, but it is very close. I would want George Pickens in the lineup. I am starting Nico Collins this week. There's also injuries in the Seahawks secondary. So I would be starting Evans and Nico of those 3, but I don't want to bench George Pickens. I still want Pickens in the lineup. And Evans is not a lock to play. So if we get to Sunday and it's like, yikes, I'm not sure what Evans' practice reps are, a game time decision, unlikely to play, then go George Pickens. But as of this moment, I would go Evans over George Pickens. Bruce says, I need to stream a quarterback, Dart or Darnold, Stroud, Purdy, or T-Law. I am going to go Darnold. If you tell me that Purdy is active, then I might go with Purdy, but I think I would go Sam Darnold of that group. It's tempting to go Jackson Dart, but against Denver, I don't like it, man. I don't like Dart against the Broncos. And then Darnold has just looked so good. The floor is pretty bust proof with Sam Darnold. So I think that's the safest bet. Stroud is really touchdown dependent, and against Seattle, it's not my favorite matchup. So not ideal. And then Purdy also has a bad matchup against Atlanta. He's not 100%, not even sure if he's going to play as of this moment. And then Trevor Lawrence, also a bad matchup. I would go Sam Darnold. I would stream Sam Darnold of that group But if not, then I would go Dart. It would be Darnold, then Dart, and then kind of ignore the rest of them. And then also, how do you feel about Packers defense? Is it worth picking up Houston or the Bears defense? I think I barely prefer the Bears defense this week. Just barely against the Saints, but not by a lot. I think it is worth having Green Bay rest of season more than Chicago, though. So I have them like back to back in my rankings. They're both top 10. I think I would probably stick with the Packers. But Houston is just outside my top 10. I believe Houston is at 12, the Packers at 7, and then I have Chicago at 6, if I'm not mistaken. But A+ says pick one, Flacco, Rodgers, Darnold, or Stroud. I'm really tempted to go Flacco, to be honest, but I do rank Darnold the highest. I have Darnold at 15, Flacco at 18, and so I will go Darnold. I also think I'd rather roster Sam Darnold rest of season more than Flacco. I think he's a better asset on your bench. So give me Sam Darnold there. And then Cliff G loves it. I assume this has to do with the Bengals attire. I assume it's the Bengals costume. Yeah. Shane Miner says, J.K. Dobbins or Rico in my flex. We are going Rico Dowdle over J.K. Dobbins this week. Dobbins a little touchdown dependent. Not the best matchup against the Giants. It's gotten a little tougher lately. Rico has been so good. Even if Chuba Hubbard comes back, I would still go Rico Dowdle. But at the moment, it's still not a guarantee that Chuba Hubbard does play. He's starting to practice, but they might not force it against the Jets. But I'm sure he doesn't want to lose his job. He is team captain, so that'll be a problem for Rico. But Dobbins is also in a bit of a timeshare. I trust Rico right now. I'd rather go against the Jets defense than the Giants. Give me Rico Dowdle over J.K. Dobbins. Best Ball on Call, just as live streams. Okay, I was mistaken. But we'll be firing up again for Resurrection. Dope. Anonymous says, half PPR, need a flex. Dobbs, Woody, Henderson, or Spears. In half PPR, it sucks because the matchup is so good for Travion Henderson. I want to tell you to go Travion, but I don't think I'm bold enough to do it. Highest upside, I think, is Travion Henderson among this group. Woody is interesting, but against Seattle, I'd rather not press my luck. They have a good run defense. He'll need to contribute in the passing game, which I don't really think will be enough this week. In half PPR, I don't think it's worth it. And then Tyjae Spears gets a really rough matchup against the Patriots, but kind of interesting in a big time split. I'd rather go Henderson, though, than Woody and Tyjae. So it's between Dobbs and Henderson for me. And because we haven't seen enough from Henderson, I'd probably just go with Romeo Dobbs. But Dobbs gets a tough matchup. Dobbs against Will Johnson of Arizona is really a matchup to avoid, in my opinion. So I would honestly be very tempted to go with Travion, but I just don't think I can do it. I would go Romeo Dobbs. I have not seen enough from Henderson, even in an excellent matchup, for him to exploit it. But Tennessee has given up 10 rushing touchdowns this year. If Henderson finds the end zone, it's not going to be a surprise at all. But Dobbs scoring a touchdown is also not that big of a surprise either. I would go Romeo Dobbs. I think I would just keep it safe. It's really close, though, but I'm going to go Romeo Dobbs. Emiliano Gonzalez says, should I start DK Metcalf today or Brian Thomas Jr.? I prefer Brian Thomas Jr., but just barely. In my rankings, I actually have BTJ, I believe, at 15. Let me pull it up. I'll confirm that in just a second. Okay, so actually I'm even higher on Brian Thomas Jr. I have BTJ at 13 this week. The Rams secondary doesn't scare me. I like Brian Thomas Jr. at 13, and then I have DK Metcalf at 14. I think they're both good. I would start both of them if I can. They're both in my top 20. However, I prefer straight up Brian Thomas Jr. over DK Metcalf. It's very close, but I do prefer BTJ. I want both of them in the lineup, though. Bruce says, thanks for the advice. No problem, bro. Emiliano also asking, pick one, Brees or J.K. Dobbins. This week we are going J.K. Dobbins. I do not trust the Jets offense without Garrett Wilson. I expect a lot of stacked boxes, not much production from Brees Hall, and he never scores touchdowns. I think J.K. Dobbins has higher upside. I will go J.K. Dobbins over Breece Hall. Julio Ramirez has Rice, Judkins, Kyren in the flex. We are going to go, damn. I don't want to bench any of them. I want all of them in the lineup, but my preference would be Kyren Williams. Because Puka is out, I would go Kyren Williams over Rashee Rice. Rice could be amazing, but he hasn't played in over a year. There could be a bit of rust involved. Against Vegas, it's a really good matchup, though, so I still want to start Rashee Rice. And then Quinshon Judkins gets an amazing matchup against the Dolphins with a bad weather situation, but I do trust Kyren more than Quinshon Judkins. I'll go Kyren Williams in the flex there. I do prefer running backs in the flex, but I'm hearing too much hype about Rice. Yeah, you must have a great roster. Maybe it's a smaller league or something, but you are loaded with these options in the flex. Rice is going to have a great game. I rank him top 10 this week. Judkins, I rank in the top 12. And then Kyren, I also have top 10. So you are living with this situation, a good problem to have, but among the three, I would go Kyren over Rashee Rice and Judkins. Julio says, first season doing fantasy football and watching NFL seriously. That's dope, man. Welcome to the party. It's a fun way to go about your time. It's a very entertaining. Bob says, Sutton, Keenan, Myers, and PPR, pick one. Well, Jacoby Myers isn't even a lock to play. He gets a terrible matchup against Kansas City, so definitely bench Jacoby Myers. Fuck starting Jacoby Myers. Not going to put him in the lineup this week. Definitely not Jacoby Myers. But you only need one in full PPR, so I think I'm going to go Courtland Sutton. I trust the matchup a little bit more for Sutton. There's less competition for targets. Keenan should be pretty good, but Ladd is coming on now, and Quentin Johnston might play. If QJ is inactive, then I might consider Keenan, but as of this moment, I think Quentin Johnston will suit up, and that's why I will go Courtland Sutton. He has a very good matchup. I believe it's top 5 for Sutton this week against the Giants. I would expect a big bounce back after the bad game on Sauce Gardner. But you're also asking your tight end situation. Pick one between Pitts and Fannin. I'm going to go... I want to say Fannin because Njoku's out, but there's so much bad weather. There's a lot of wind, like literally like potentially 40-mile-per-hour gusts of wind in Cleveland this week. And then it's also going to be like a 95% chance of rain. So I really don't want to trust Dylan Gabriel at all. And that's why I'm going to go Kyle Pitts over Harold Fannin. Rough spot given the weather in Cleveland this week. So I'll bench Harold Fannin, go with Kyle Pitts. And then Jalen Hurts or Drake May. I'm going to go Jalen Hurts there because Drake May looks great, but the weather's also a problem in Tennessee. And given the coaching situation with Vrabel coming to town, they fired Callahan. I think they can play tough against the Patriots. So I will bench Drake May if my other option is Jalen Hurts. Give me Hurts over May, Pitts over Fannin, and then Sutton barely over Keenan Allen. Definitely bench Jacoby Myers. Good luck, Bob. Good luck to you. Michael Regine says, full PPR, flex Chase Brown or Otten. I'm going to go Cade Otten there, bro. I will take Cade Otten. A lot of injuries in Tampa receiver. Egbuka not going to play most likely. Evans not a lock to play, but probably comes back. I like Cade Otten over Chase Brown. I see similar yardage for both of them. Like if you told me Otten gives you 60 yards this week, not going to be surprised. Chase Brown giving you 60 yards is hard to bet on. And I see a little more touchdown upside for Cade Otten. Give me Cade Otten there. I want to bet on Baker against Detroit in primetime. Shane Miner says Bourne or Diggs, and thank you for awesome advice. Much appreciated. We're going to go... Oh, damn. That's actually really close. I think I literally have them back-to-back. Yeah, I do have them back-to-back. I have Diggs at 26 and Kendrick Bourne at 27. This is a very good question. As of today, I will prefer Diggs just barely, but there are a lot of caveats to this answer. If the weather gets worse for the Titans game if there's a lot of rain guaranteed. Right now, there's not much rain guaranteed. Like, there's a chance they can get out of this game and there's not going to be any rain. But there is pretty strong wind. It's over 17 miles per hour. So here's what I would do. This is what I'm going to do, so you can just check the channel on Saturday. But I'm going to update my rank on Stefon Diggs depending on the weather. And then I'm also going to update my rank on Bourne depending on the quarterback. If you tell me Brock Purdy is the quarterback, I'm not going to start Kendrick Bourne. I only trust Kendrick Bourne if Mac Jones is the quarterback. But I also don't trust Kendrick Bourne if George Kittle and Ricky Pearsall return to the lineup. There's a chance that the Niners get healthy. And if all of those factors happen, if Purdy plays, if Kittle plays, if Pearsall plays, I would be benching Kendrick Bourne. So odds are I'm going to start Stefon Diggs. I think based on my rankings right now, I would trust Diggs above Kendrick Bourne. But if there's a lot of injuries still in San Francisco, like if Kittle doesn't play, if Mac Jones is the starter and Pearsall stays out, then I would go Bourne over Diggs. So it's all kind of weird, but right now I prefer Diggs just barely, one spot over Kendrick Bourne. And then user in the cuts says, I have Olave on the bench this week. Do I trade him for Zay Flowers and eat the bye? No, I would not make that trade right now. I think Olave has decent start value this week. I rank him top 25. So although he's on your bench, I think he's a decent start this week. And then rest of season, I would still rather have Olave over Zay Flowers. Maybe in a few weeks I'll change my opinion, but as of this moment, Olave is a live bet to get traded to another team. The Steelers might be interested. The Patriots might be interested. There are some trade rumors surrounding multiple guys on New Orleans. Kamara could be shipped. Olave could get traded. So could, what's his face? Shaheed. And even Taysom Hill. I think there's actually a lot of trade rumors circulating for New Orleans right now. For that reason, I would not move off of Olave. I'll stick with Olave instead of Flowers. But once Lamar comes back, there's higher upside for Flowers, but I think there's a much higher floor for Olave. Like Olave's safely top 30 option every week. Flowers is so boom bust, you can get totally burned, and then you can also get 25 points. I think I'd rather have the consistency of Olave and also the potential that he's traded to somebody else. Like if you told me Olave goes to the Patriots, no doubt about it. Give me Olave well above Zay Flowers. So that's it for the questions so far. We are currently caught up in the chat and I want to do, whoops, didn't mean to do that. Let's take off this thing because I'm getting fucking hot in the fucking Bengals thing. The zipper kind of broke. So it gets like, I can put it on, but it's like stuck up here. Like the zipper won't go any further down. Let's take this shit off. Okay. I wanted to do a daily draft before I log off. We're only going to stick around for another like 10 minutes or so. Okay. Got rid of that. Let's pull up Underdog. These are my rankings, but let's go to Underdog. And this is our pick'em for tonight. A reminder on the picks we made. We took T. Higgins to go over 60 yards. The baseline projection is only 50. So if that one burns me, if he gives me like 56, I'm going to be pissed. But I think he'll go over 60. DK Metcalf, touchdown. Kenny Gainwell for 18 or more receiving yards. I think he goes over 20. And then Noah Fant with a touchdown. That one's a big gamble, but definitely possible against Pittsburgh. And then lastly, JaMarr Chase for a touchdown. I think that one is probably the most guaranteed, probably the safest one to work out. So those are the 5 picks tonight. We used a 40% profit boost. We can pocket $328 off of 5 if these 5 things happen. But I am going to do a draft right now. Let's head over to the lobby. And the Primetime Palooza for $10 might be the cheapest option for tonight. There's the $100 one. I'm definitely not doing that. Not bold enough to risk $100. There's the $25 option. How many people make money on this? What are the returns? 2K to first, top 50 get $50, but there's 456 people. So that's a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1 in 9 chance of making double your money. Think I'll pass on that. I think the odds are slightly higher on this. Top 2,500 make money. Yeah, more like a 1 in 4 chance. I think we're going to do this. We're going to do the $10 primetime Palooza, and the games we're choosing from would be tonight, the Steelers and Bengals game, and then the Rams-Jaguars game, and then the Falcons-Niners game. So I'm a little worried about the defense in that Rams-Jaguars game, but obviously Adams and Kyren are pretty good. Otherwise, I'm not really that interested in anyone else. And then tonight in Cincinnati, I don't think is as valuable as Bijan and CMC. So I'm reluctant to do it, but I kind of want to. Let's do it. Let's press our luck. We have a 1 in 4 shot, basically, at an ROI. Let's do it. $10 primetime Palooza. Right? It's a $10 one. Let me make sure. Yeah, I'm hopping in. And this thing is full. I get pick 1. Thankfully, I get pick 1. Sweet. I am going to go Bijan over CMC. I prefer the matchup for Bijan than McCaffrey. The Falcons have a very, very legit run defense. Their defense in general is really good. So I will go Bijan here. Sweet. I'm so happy I got the first pick. Because the drop-off after that is like so significant. At wide receiver, we can still get some good options, honestly. But to get Bijan is so clutch. We might still get Brian Thomas as well. Yeah, there's still some good receiver options. But the draft starts in 15 seconds. Sam has a question. Would you trade away Hampton for Olave and Jaylen Warren? I'm 1 in 5. Okay, so 1 in 5, definitely a big factor there. And this draft is underway. I will just take Bijan. Get that over with. Give me Bijan Robinson. But, okay, your question is, would I trade away Hampton for Olave and Jaylen Warren? I think so. If you're 1 in 5, I think I would. I don't know when Hampton is coming back. The minimum is another 3 games, and I don't think you can afford to lose more than 7 in a typical fantasy league. So you're desperate. I don't think you can afford to wait for Hampton. Yeah, I would do it. Give me Olave and Warren for Hampton. I think that's a relatively fair trade, honestly. I would do it. At 1 in 5, what do you have to lose? Good luck, Sam. But we did get Bijan. Then CMC goes. Kyren goes. I do like Jaylen Warren as an interesting piece. But we don't need a second running back here. We have only 6 rounds. And we need 2 receivers, 1 quarterback, 1 tight end, and 1 flex. So maybe Warren's going to be my flex play. But at the moment, that is not my plan with this next pick. The quarterbacks in this game, in these matchups, are not very good. I don't know what to make of Brock Purdy. Remains limited at practice. Not sure he's going to play. Penix at San Francisco is interesting, but Mac Jones could be the best option. And that's where Flacco comes in, is kind of interesting. But if I can here, I'm going to go Brian Thomas and DK Metcalf. But I assume this team is going to draft a receiver. I think it's most likely what's going to happen. They take DK Metcalf. So I did prefer Brian Thomas. So that'll be my pick. George Kittle might play. I think he does. What's the tight end situation looking like? There's Kittle, Pitts, Jonnu, Higbee, Jake Tonjes, Noah Fant. If we're not taking Kittle, then the move would be Noah Fant as our last pick. But it's pretty gross, honestly. We're going to take Brian Thomas for sure. And then I think I might go T. Higgins. Yeah, give me T. Higgins tonight. And then I'm going to go with Flacco. Wow, that feels so crazy, but I'm going to go with Flacco. Sam says, thanks for the advice. No problem, bro. And then Michael says, wow, please don't think I am blowing smoke, but I enjoy checking in and listening to your advice. There is no BS here, just honest, great advice. You definitely know your shit. I appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot. I will mention sometimes I feel like people can like, anytime you have like some level of success, even if it's like minor, there's going to be someone that like gives you compliments. And I try not to care whether someone's giving me a compliment or even like shitting on me. Like I try not to let other people's opinion go to my head, but it does mean a lot to me to know that people appreciate the advice I give. And, I feel really privileged to just be able to do this. Like, this is a crazy way to make money. And for like me to, it's not like the channel makes much money. I'm not going to pretend like I get a lot of money from the channel, but to get any money from the channel is insane to me. I really appreciate all of you that watch and are viewers. So a comment like this, I really appreciate. Thanks, man. We are on the clock though. And I think I'm deciding to bite the bullet with Flacco, but I think I'm going to leave him on the board. Actually, nah, let's just get him now because I'm not really sure where else I'm going to go. Like, I kind of want to take Darnell Mooney, but I'm not so sure. I'm going to complete this Joe Flacco stack. We got Bijan, we have Brian Thomas, we have T. Higgins, and then Kittle was already taken. If Kittle doesn't play, that would really suck. So I'm gonna go Noah Fant. I'm gonna gamble. We are taking the Noah Fant touchdown tonight. The matchup is elite against Pittsburgh. We are taking Noah Fant and Joe Flacco. Top 10 matchup for Flacco. Number 1 matchup for Fant, and then a decent matchup for T. Higgins. He's played phenomenally well against Pittsburgh. We are taking T. Higgins and Fant to stack with Flacco. Feels weird. Feels like it's gonna burn me. But I'm willing to do it. 6 minutes ago, Darnell Mooney did return to practice and was limited. That's very good. That's very encouraging. I like that. But ooh, Tutu Atwell was full on Thursday. Fuck yeah, let's go Tutu Atwell in the London game with no Puka. That feels very valuable. I have no idea if Pearsall is going to play. Did not practice on Thursday. That's not safe. Whittington is kind of interesting, but no, I'm shooting for house call upside. I think Puka's the yeah, Puka's not going to play. I think Tutu Atwell is the better option in this DFS situation. Boy, this is a strange team. Honestly, I kind of like Kenny Gainwell a little bit in this, as well as Tyler Algier. I could see Gainwell vulture a touchdown tonight, and that factors in, but I think I'm going to pass on it. Wow, they do take Puka, despite his unlikeliness to play. I think I'm going Tutu. Yeah, that's where I'm going to go. We're going to bet on a deep shot touchdown. 70 plus yards and a touchdown for Tutu. Let's go for it. He was full in practice. That's all I need to know. All right. Those were my picks in this DFS format. I'm so glad I got the number 1 pick. With Bijan, I think I have such a higher chance of advancing. If you don't get Bijan or CMC, I think it's a little rough, but maybe somebody else really steps up. Maybe I'm wrong, but Bijan has so much more upside than anyone else. In primetime especially, That's such a necessary pick. Brian Thomas, I think, will play well against the Rams. Their secondary is not very good. T. Higgins, I think, has a very good game tonight. He has multiple games. Like, if we go back 2 years ago for T. Higgins, he has a 140-yard game, and then the game before that, he had 148 yards. T. Higgins has had some monster blow-up games against the Steelers. I don't trust their secondary to be that healthy tonight. I don't like the Steelers secondary right now. So give me T. Higgins. We missed out on Chase, so let's go with the other one. And then Flacco for the stack. We also get Noah Fant for a Bengals stack. Great matchup for Noah Fant tonight. And then Tutu Atwell with an all-or-nothing touchdown for a deep shot. I'm glad we did not get sniped on Puka. The team that drafted Puka, I think, fucked up. They are taking some big risks with Puka and Kittle. I think Kittle will play, but Chase Brown is not a good option in this. I don't like him at all. And then Puka might give you a bagel. So team 2, very risky with their approach. They go CMC, Metcalf, Kittle, Chase Brown, Stafford, and Puka. Team 3 went with Kyron and Jaylen Warren. They have Drake London at receiver. That's pretty good. And then quarterback, they're rolling with Brock Purdy and Juwan Jennings. Not sure if Purdy's going to suit up, so that's a risky call. And then Team 4 took Devontae Adams, JaMarr Chase, really good receivers. Kendrick Bourne should play well, but if you told me Purdy comes back to the lineup, I'm not so sure. And then Travis Etienne, really bad matchup for Etienne. Tyler Higbee could pop off, but probably not going to give you more than like 30, 40 yards. And then Trevor Lawrence maybe plays well, but I'm not dying to draft Trevor Lawrence, to be honest with you. I'm willing to take the randomness and potentially like undrafted value on Joe Flacco with my stack. Very risky to invest in the Bengals, but I'm willing to do it. I'm a madman. We had the Bengal tiger costume on earlier. I'm willing to do it. We're going full Bengals tonight. Bengals, I think, will win. So that's going to be it. One last rip from the pipe. Any remaining questions, let me know. But in the next 2-3 minutes, I will be logging off. I promise you that. We're basically done. And then I got some questions to answer on all the comments. I got to answer people's questions. And then I got to make some videos. I'm behind a little bit. We added the start sit video, which I do think is really helpful. I think I'm going to keep it, but I might want to tweak it a little bit. It's a work in progress, but I have not posted wide receivers yet. I'm sure people are wondering where that's going to happen. I plan to post that tonight, but I honestly might record the quarterback video first because there's a lot of injuries at receiver, and honestly, things are going to change a lot with tomorrow's practice reports. So I think I'm going to hold off on wide receiver tonight. I think I'll go quarterback, tight end, and defense, and then tomorrow we'll do wide receiver. And then on Saturday, as always, we'll do injury updates and all that stuff. So stay tuned. We'll have more content tonight after the game. But as always, you can find all the poll questions on the channel page in the posts tab. Let me know who you think will win these games this week. And I'm now 3 games back of y'all. Just a couple weeks ago, I was 7 games back. I've picked up 4 correct picks over the last 2 weeks. So if you want to keep me at arm's length, if you want to have a better record than I have, then answer those polls and try and sway them in the direction you want. But I'm almost packing this pipe. So just a reminder, if you have any remaining questions, let me know. I will be logging off very, very soon. But Cliff G says, looking good. Likes the lineup. Later, man. Good luck. Appreciate it. I'm going to need it. But looks like nobody else has any questions. We'll have one last rip from the pipe, and then I'll say goodbye. All right. It's after 4:20. I'm going to say goodbye. Later, and good luck tonight. I hope everyone starting a Bengal and Steeler gets a good point in their lineup. I think you want to be starting JaMarr Chase, DK Metcalf, T. Higgins, Jaylen Warren, and Chris Boswell. Those are the 5 main guys I would start. I would reluctantly also start the Steelers defense, but not top 10, not a lock in the lineup. Anyway, goodbye. Have a good one. Peace out. I'll see you next time. Later. Bye-bye.